We are into Indigenous Peoples Day, formerly Columbus Day. I guess it's still Columbus Day here because they haven't changed it. But welcome to the show, Diana Benoit. Am I saying that right?
You are saying it right.
And your mic is not up. Let's hear you again.
I think the French pronunciation is Benoit, but it's been Americanized. So
see, I had a friend named Benoit from France, and so it's really hard for me. And it's spelled the same way, so to say Benoit is hard for me. But now, I think I've said it enough times that I'm now used to it.
Okay.
Diana Benoit, welcome to the Monday Afternoon Show.
Well, thank you for having me.
It's amazing you're here. Here you are. You are running for Greene County Sheriff, which is right across the river. That's in our listening area.
Yes.
Yep. And this campaign is going. It's going strong, and we have Matt in the studio with us. Matt and Cassidy, I guess, have been both instrumental in helping you kind of put this forward. And
absolutely. I'm very excited to be running for sheriff at this time. There's a lot of things going on in Greene County that I think we need some principled leadership for. And so it's actually a very exciting time for us.
Exciting times in Greene County. I love it already. So you are a cop. I mean, you're a former cop. And you have stated that you always wanted to be a cop.
Yes.
And there was nothing else that you wanted to be more than a cop. So I just wonder, like, what really attracted you to law enforcement? Just as a background point.
I think having something different happen every day. And I don't really like things to be the same every day. And police work definitely brings that to you. There's a lot of different things going on all the time. It probably looks better on TV than it really is in real life. That I discovered.
Do you watch cop shows?
I don't watch a lot of like
NYPD Blue.
No,
come on,
no. I like the real life ones. You know that
not
really
X-Files.
happened. No, no.
It's a good show though.
You never know. That might be real life, but
Mulder and Scully, great people.
They are.
So you really like the variety, the interesting, like you never know what you're gonna get.
And I like the puzzle.
Sort of like historic restoration, which
yes.
is a lot of what I do. Which you just never know what you're gonna get.
Yeah, I like the puzzle of police work. You know, trying to figure things out, get to the truth of things. So I think all of that stuff attracted me.
Okay. Do you have a history of a family in law enforcement, or do you have mentors that you looked up to that was like as a child growing up? I'm just trying to think about like you as a little kid. Did you grow up in Greene County? Or?
I did. I grew up in Caro. My dad was.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. My dad was a correction officer, so he worked at Cooksaki Prison and Hudson. When I think maybe Hudson's closed now, but he worked there. I can remember walking the picket line with him when they had the strike. That was a big strike back in the day. So I didn't really have anybody that I was related to that was a police officer, but I always knew that I wanted to be a police officer, and most specifically a trooper.
So you were going straight for statey. I mean, do they call that in New York and Mass? They call them stadies. So you went straight for state.
Well, I worked for the Caro Police for a while, and then I worked for Capitol Police in Albany. And then in 1990, I went to the New York State Police Academy. And then I became a trooper, got sent to several different stations, and rose through the ranks to the rank of senior investigator.
So you had some kind of preconceived notions about becoming an officer, particularly a state police officer, and you became that. And you followed your dreams. Was it everything that you thought it would be, or were there some downfalls that were unexpected, or how did that go for you over 25 years?
I love the New York State Police. I love everything about the New York State Police. I was very happy. It was hard to raise a family. I have 3 children. So, trying to juggle, what every woman has, that works. There is a juggle, and, you have to successfully keep all those balls in the air, trying to keep everything good at work, keep everything good at home. So that was difficult, but, it happened, and we're good.
Here you are. You're good.
Here we are.
Health, family.
Yep. I have 3 kids.
Well.
Yep. Everything's good.
Awesome. So what led you to decide to run for sheriff? Like, what was this transition? Like, oh, I've been a state cop for like 25 years. Now I want to be the Greene County Sheriff.
So I think there's a need for us to do better in Greene County as far as law enforcement is concerned. I think that it doesn't have to necessarily be about being Democrat or Republican or whatever. It's about right and wrong. And I think we can do better with that. So that's really what led me to run for sheriff.
So you got a deep conviction of morals that was like, I'm going to become the sheriff to make change.
Yes.
Does it pay better? No, that's I shouldn't ask that. But
no, actually,
actually wasn't on my list.
Well,
but
that's
like,
okay. But
I'm wondering, like, were there other motivations?
No, because if I was worried about just money, I would have stayed a senior investigator. The pay is better.
I bet the state would take care of you better.
Yeah. Listen, I loved being a senior investigator, being in charge of a group of people investigating, serious crimes. It was a great job.
Okay. Well, I noticed in your history that you did investigate. Like, for me, one thing I just want to say, okay, I'll get to the part where I really respect some of the work that you did as a senior investigator. You investigated sexual assault, sexual abuse of children, rape, these types of things. It's particularly crimes against women and children. And I feel like that's the work that police need to be doing, is like serious violations against human rights, people's rights.
I agree. I'm a staunch, proponent of civil rights and the Constitution.
Yeah.
And so, especially those that can't defend themselves, victims, children, women, animals, all of that stuff. That's when we show the true character of our nature. When we step up to take notice and help those that are in need.
Yeah. So were there areas in your experience with the state police where you thought that actually was not rightfully falling under the jurisdiction of law enforcement involving people's rights, and that overstepping boundaries, for example, that you didn't feel comfortable with?
I have to say that most of the people, if not all of the people that I worked with, troopers and such, they were pretty concerned with that and keeping on the right side. I think the state police does a pretty good job in training people to observe people's rights. And some of it is about keeping out of the way of a lawsuit, and some of it's about but if it all equals the same thing, I guess that's a good thing. That's
a tough question. I know, because I just know personally of many, many stories in which the troopers were involved with the gross violation of people's rights.
I'm not saying it doesn't happen.
It does happen. I'm saying it does happen because it happened to me.
Right. So I can't speak for every incident, but I can tell you what I've seen.
Yeah.
So I understand that there are police that cross the line, and that's really why I'm running for sheriff.
So as sheriff, like how do you, like, you're in charge. Say you get elected. You're in charge. Like, how do you mitigate that? It's just an entrenched, ingrained system of law enforcement that goes back to slavery, basically, and the keeping down of people. And how do you, like, change that after, like, 150 years?
Right. You have to take a look at your culture, the culture of corruption that occurs in a police department, some police departments. And you have to be realistic, and you have to make changes that safeguard those things. With the Greene County Sheriff's Department, they're not accredited. There's no state accreditation. So you have to set forth the rules and regulations that make it so people, the officers, stay within the bounds of what's legal and in reference to civil rights. When you have rules that are written down and you have expectations that they'll follow them, management sets the tone. And that's what you have to do, and that's what you have a police manager for, is to make sure that those things are being done.
So you, as Greene County Sheriff, are kind of like a police manager.
Absolutely, that's what a sheriff is.
So you're managing HR, you're managing, you say the tone.
Well, the tone, I think the tone, everything, the management, everything is set by the police manager. Sergeants, lieutenants, the whole 9 yards. And you have to make sure that you put people in charge that make clear distinctions about what's acceptable and what's not.
Okay, so I'm going to ask, typically law enforcement has been a very male activity.
Mm-hmm.
Cops are guys. And here you are, a female running for sheriff in a county that may or may not have a culture ingrained in some kind of, let's say, male-dominated sort of history, as a point of fact. What is your take on being the potentially first female? I don't know. Are you the first female sheriff to run?
I don't think ever.
Okay.
But in Greene County, yes.
But if you were elected, you would be the first one elected. Is that correct?
I don't. In Greene County.
In
yes.
Greene County,
yes,
that's what I'm saying.
In Greene County.
Yeah.
I'm the first female to run for sheriff also.
Okay. So I'm just asking this gender question in a way. I mean, how does that relate to what you just said about tone? And so why is it important to accentuate that fact of being the first female sheriff in Greene County ever? And why is that important? What should people think about that?
So I think if you have a police department, like you said, just going by what the example you've given, who is misogynistic or ingrained into the good old boys network, they're not going to treat people fairly. So you have to make sure that they understand that that's not acceptable. And you have to set the tone and have your expectations concrete. What I expect from you, that you will not be misogynistic, homophobic, whatever things you want to bring to the table. Everybody has to be treated equally.
So you think it's important to have equal gender representation in law enforcement?
I think you have to be careful with that. I think it's important to also make sure the person that you are picking can do the job, that has the experience. I mean, it's not only about, gender. Right. It also has to be about those other things that that they can bring to the table. But I think you should have a good representation of your community in your policing.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yes, Matt, join on. This is Matt Bua. Your mic is on. You got to talk directly into that. Hold on, let me turn you up, though. Matt Bua.
I wanted to interject. If anyone goes by the Greene County Courthouse in Catskill on Main Street and they look up at the frieze, the sculptural frieze at the top, there's a giant woman in the middle, and then there's 9 or so guys in togas to the left and right. That is Themis, the goddess of justice. And so she was a daughter of Gaia. And then also there was a missing statue, Lady Liberty. She's holding the scales, the blindfold, just like our Statue of Liberty. These are female justice and liberty, are female aspects of the all-powerful. So and so that's an important thing. I mean, not that, we're going to be better off just because Diana is a woman, but there's a reason that there's a giant woman sitting in the middle of Moses and these Greek Greek speakers or
That's
whoever.
easy for you to say.
I know. It is. That's my interjection, part 1.
No, keep going. So you're saying there's a historically ancient female component to the idea of justice.
Correct. Yeah.
Lady Liberty, for example.
Yes.
The Statue of Liberty.
Right. And so I know Hudson is busy. Garrett is trying to find the Venus fountain, you too. But we have a missing Lady Liberty fountain also with these sea putas, the little babies riding the fishes.
So are you trying to tell me, Matt, that Lady Liberty is missing from Catskill?
Well, the word on the street, or what I got, was that it was melted for munitions for World War II. We don't really know. We don't know. So that's very apropos. If you know, they melted the beautiful fountain. But
Or did they make that story up?
Right. We don't know.
That's what I said. It sounds like shenanigans.
Yeah, they could have. That was a good story, though.
All right. Don't.
But it might have been.
Yeah.
It might have been melted, but we have no actual concrete evidence to suggest where Lady Liberty went.
Right. We're still trying to get to the bottom
of it.
And
is she still blind?
She hopefully is, she's holding the scales. She's got her sword, just like St. Winfried you guys have at your waterfront park.
Winifred, that's my grandma's name.
Oh, nice. Cool.
I love that statue. Have you seen that statue? Promenade Park right up here in Hudson. Beautiful park overlooking the Hudson River, and St. Winifred with his giant sword and a crown. This beautiful giant female figure in, is it bronze? Maybe
it's green. It's so
green.
Maybe it's copper. I don't know.
Could be copper, bronze, like just these beautiful images, especially at the turn of the century. And maybe, are you trying to bring that back, Diana? Diana, like, what's going on? Lady Liberty's
If I
coming
could
back
find,
to Catskill.
if I could
Are we
find
gonna
that
go that
statue,
far?
if I could find that statue, that'll be my first case. If I could find that statue, it would make Matt very happy. So I would definitely be on to that.
It might make a lot of us happy. That's good. This is good. So here we are. If you're just joining us, thank you, Matt. Matt, you have been instrumental in helping Diana Benoit here run for Greene County Sheriff.
Helping,
And-
Cassidy.
And
A.
Cassidy.
Mays, yes, and everyone
Big shout
else.
out to Cassidy.
Yes.
Got to say that too, right?
Definitely. She's
Appreciate that. And here we are. Diana Benoit running for Greene County Sheriff. If you're just joining us, if you don't know yet. So another question I have. Okay, so you have been involved with Republican politics and in the party
Yes.
over the years. And you ran in the primary, lost in the primary to the incumbent sheriff.
No, he's not the
or
incumbent.
whatever it's called. What do you call him?
He's not running. The incumbent is Greg Seeley. He's not running, so it's the establishment pick, I guess you could say.
I got that wrong. My apologies.
It's okay.
So you have been, historically held positions with the GOP and, identified with the Republican Party and, member of the NRA, and your support for the construction of a new jail facility. Initially, I know this is like there's semantics and stuff, but initially you were not opposed to the idea of a new jail in Greene County.
I'm still not opposed to an idea of a new
There you
jail
go.
in Greene County.
Okay.
I believe that we need a jail in Greene County, but not the jail that they're building. We need a small jail that takes into account these new bail legislation that our numbers are going to be, way less than they're building. And it seems just very silly to me how we're already trying to figure out what we're going to do with the wasted space and operational costs before we've built the jail.
Okay.
Like, we should be rethinking that. I'm sure Albany County, if they could go back in time, would like to have reduced their jail size, or Ulster County. They already built theirs. We haven't even built ours yet, and these people are trying to figure out what they're going to do with the overbuild. It's
Right.
kind of insane.
It's like a 39 million. So you're like looking at this bloat. You're like questioning and stuff. So, but the fundamental question there was just this kind of little bit of a shift that you've taken in your campaign from the Republican Party. Now you're running as an independent.
Yes, I'm running I'm on the Independence Party line.
The Independence Party line.
Yes.
What is the Independence Party? Does that differ at all from the Republicans? Or are you, like, what is your political stance, Republican versus Independence? Is it basically the same thing but a different name so you can still run? Or are there any fundamental shifts in your political line as far as the GOP is concerned? Or are you...
I think that
You know what I mean?
getting involved, yeah, I do. Getting involved in this race has definitely opened my eyes about political tribalism. And political tribalism means, you go into the ballot, and if you're a Republican, you just vote Republican. If you're a Democrat, you just vote Democrat. And I think that that's a bad idea. And I've been guilty of it myself in the past, and I will not be guilty of that in the future. And I think the Independence Party, for me, can bring all of those people together and just move forward with truthful, common sense solutions. And, for people to just sign on to this huge waste of taxpayer money, this boondoggle of a jail because the Republicans want it, is crazy, because we are not going to be able to pay for it. We're going to, we got a general obligation bond. The general obligation bond means it's not project specific. So we could take that money, build a small, useful jail, and also put money into services. It doesn't have to be just for the jail. And we really should be thinking about that, because we have a deficit of services in Greene County. We have an opioid crisis that's out of control. We have a mental health problem where people are on waiting lists for 6 months or more, and we're going to build a jail that is worth $39 to $50 million to house 10 people. It makes no sense.
And this is not a private jail, right?
It is not.
Okay. Do you have any opinion you want to share about private jails?
I don't think we have any privatization
Just
of
in
jails.
general,
And
I'm just thinking the
I
private prison
I worry about that. I
system
worry about when you make
for profit.
people captive to a bottom line, to profit. So I would have to take a better look at that. I would be worried about that. I would have to take a good look at that. And I haven't done any research into it at all. This is not a
Right.
private jail. It would be run by Greene County.
All right. So potentially, upon research, you might be opposed to the private prison in Coxsackie or Greene
It's
County.
not private.
Right, but you would be if it were.
Right. I don't think New York State would ever move to that.
Right.
But if they did, I
You're
think
an
we would have to
optimist.
take a very good. Well, I think we'd. Yeah, I hope. I'd have to take a very good look at it because I always worry about how the bottom line, which is profit, affects how we treat people.
Okay. So elected as sheriff's department at the sheriff's department, what would your priorities be if and when elected? Which it's coming pretty soon,
It
isn't
is
it?
November 5th.
There you go. Election day.
So if I was elected sheriff of Greene County, I think the first thing that I would do would be to start the accreditation process. We have to set forth a manual that sets clear rules and guidelines, policies that have to be followed, working with the state to make sure that we're in line with the best practices of criminal justice. And then I think we'd have to start looking at the budget. Where are we wasting money? Where can we make changes that we can shift money to serve people? If it's not serving people, if we're buying stuff or we're investing in stuff that's only, helping deputies rather than citizens, then we need to reevaluate, because the core mission of police work is to assist citizens. It's not to, make a big, palace, for the sheriff's department. It's about helping the citizens of Greene County. And if we're doing something that's not doing that, we have to reevaluate it.
You mentioned the opioid crisis, and you mentioned kind of re-looking at and potentially diverting funds for the incarceration and jail purposes towards programs, services such as treatment. I'm thinking maybe you're talking about treatment, rehabilitation, actually looking at the root cause of why people get into trouble in the first place, and if it's like addiction, for example.
Yes.
Really looking at that.
Well, I think, a small county is a blessing and a curse. But in reality, if we allocate our money properly, it could be a blessing, because we have a small enough population where we can do some innovative stuff and really see what works, and remain fluid and change it and really deal with people as individuals rather than, massive numbers. And I think it really could be revolutionary. Working with our professionals in that field, but I think it really, we really could open up things to take a good look at all of that.
Now, those types of things that you're talking to me about, does that distinguish you from your opponent? Do you feel like these?
Well, I don't really know how my opponent feels, because he doesn't
Okay.
really go on record about anything.
Okay.
He has said that, he wants to look into doing that stuff, but he's never very clear about what it is he wants to do. And when we had our meeting at the Mountaintop Progressives, he said that he believed we couldn't arrest our way out of it, but then in the same sentence said we're going to arrest everyone. So I'm not really sure where he stands. And if you look at his Facebook page, he really doesn't go over anything that he's in favor of or against. So we've challenged him to a debate, and he refuses. He won't go on record with anything. So,
Well, maybe we'll get him in here. Who knows? Asking the same darn questions I'm coming up with for you. But it sounds like you're really trying to change things.
absolutely.
And you're trying to look at a little bit, maybe potentially more of a humane approach to law enforcement in Greene County. Things like treatment, rehabilitation. I don't want to say the word restorative justice, because that might be more radical. And what does that even mean? I had a friend ask, she's like, oh, yeah, ask her, those who are convicted with DUIs, could they have a breathalyzer on their ignition and then, as part of their community service, have to drive drunk people from bars to make sure those people aren't driving from bars? it was just this funny off the cuff, But what I liked about one reason I bring it up is that she's talking about something called restorative justice. The punishment fits the crime.
Right.
Now, as part of your community service, you have to drive these people around, which was one of you before.
Right.
But now you're sober, and you have to drive these people home so they're not crashing into people on the way home at 2:00 in the morning. Restorative justice, is that word at all ring anything?
Well, I mean, I think anytime that the punishment fits the crime, I think people understand that more. Something like that would have to be approved through probation, and there's always a lot more red tape than people really think about what is needed.
Probation can be pretty subjective
they
too.
Can be.
Pretty,
they sure can be.
Amazing.
So anytime that we can have the punishment fit the crime and also teach a lesson to not just the person that's guilty, but the people who also witness, it's always a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. A couple more questions here. You talked about opioid abuse, and I appreciate that. Thank you for even bringing that up. That is a very real issue.
Well, it's a big issue
in
Greene County.
Yep.
And I don't know anyone that doesn't know someone that is, not touched by that. So we really need to get a handle on it. And like I said, we have a small county. We have the potential to really do some revolutionary stuff. We just have to make the leap. Have faith.
Yeah.
Diana, what is the bed count for recovery patients that Greene County sponsored? I mean, I heard it was like a 12 bed count. Is that,
Are you talking about in the jail?
No, just for people that need help.
I've heard that too. But the number changes all the time, so I never really know what the truth is. But the last time I heard it was 12. That they and that's not even close to what we need. It's just like the beds in the jail. We never know what number it is. It goes from 150 to 48 to 64 to 83 and to this day, sitting here talking to you right now, I have no idea what the size of the jail they're building because they keep it a secret.
Okay, so you becoming sheriff and hiring new recruits and people coming in, would you change anything in the recruitment process, or the vetting process, doing background checks or anything like that? How do you feel about that?
Well, I'm not familiar with how they do their backgrounds. I am familiar with how the state police does theirs. I used to sit on the committee for acceptance in Albany. I think we have to do a better job reaching out to all segments of our community to make sure that we have a large pool that we can choose from. The African American community, the LGBTQ community. I think we just have to make sure that we have everybody represented and to bring those applications forward so that we can make an informed choice.
Okay.
And I don't think that's done now. I think it's done by political appointment. We just had Sheriff Seeley hired his son, and it was against apparently the rules of Greene County, and rather than tell him that it was against the rules of Greene County, they changed the rules. That's
one way to do it.
That's a huge problem for me. We need hiring standards, and we need to follow them.
So is that called nepotism?
That is exactly what that is.
Everyone's allowed to look that article up. Just put in nepotism and Greg Seeley, sheriff, and you'll get the whole story of how Grodin then changed the law.
So this is what you call business as usual in so many ways. And you were talking about upstate, rural, small town New York, and this is the way it's been done. And, up until recently, nobody's actually really complained. They weren't in a position to complain. If you complain, who's going to listen?
There's still a lot of fear in Greene County. I mean, I know when we were going around getting signatures, people would say, I would sign, but I can't. If they know I signed, they'll fire me. Or they'll fire my son or my nephew.
It's called fear.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly. So, yes, exactly. So, and I get it. I understand why they're afraid because, the political establishment in Greene County doles out those punishments. And but we have a chance to change that.
Okay. So background checks, you think you may be more extensive psychological and in-depth background checks for recruits for your department? Do you think that might be a good idea?
I don't know what they're doing. So for me to say I want to do more would be, I know that what we do with the state police, we seem to hit all the different avenues. So I'm going to say if they don't have the situations in place, then we need to put them in place so that
Okay.
we are looking at people's backgrounds, because sometimes their past will tell you what they'll do in the future. Sometimes. Sometimes that's not true.
Like if they're convicted rapist or something, maybe you don't want to hire them as a sheriff.
Well, I would think that would be an automatic
Disqualification. Phew.
convicted.
Okay, so we know at least some things they're doing. And
Exactly.
hopefully that's one of them.
Right.
Okay. All right. Good, good. So what about transparency around the just the entire business of the sheriff's department and police officers' daily activities? Transparency around the employment history of these individuals that are going around arresting people and, potentially ruining somebody's day, maybe for a good reason. But do you think transparency is an important issue?
Well, I think transparency is an important issue because it leads to people like yourself who think that there's shenanigans. So if we're, and there are, no, I get that.
'Cause
I
I've
get that.
seen
But I'm
it.
saying if we're, I'm not trying to devalue that, but what I'm
Okay.
saying is if we're transparent and everybody knows, okay, this happened, we took care of it. This happened, no, that was okay. The more transparent we are, the more people, the citizens and people will have faith in the police.
Okay, where does transparency stop as far as police work needing to have their own confidentiality?
So anytime you're dealing with cases that are pending, where you're looking for somebody, a homicide, or you have a case that's you're actively working, then there has to be a veil of secrecy kind of in that investigation. But that's not what I think you're asking. You're talking about police conduct, right?
Yeah, I'm talking about like your traffic stop because it's funny because I actually live in Berkshire County now. I moved. I crossed the border. I'm over in Mass now.
You are.
I'm one of those people.
That's okay.
It's all right.
My husband's from Massachusetts, so.
Shut up.
Swear.
Where's he from?
South Hadley.
Stop it. I lived in Hadley.
Did you?
Went to UMass Amherst. I know about South Hadley. Yeah, played them in lacrosse. Side note. So yeah, they tend to be a little more progressive over there in some areas. I mean, I'd use the word, in general. Like in Northampton Police, for example, they came up with this new system where they're posting online that anyone can research every single traffic stop that was made by the Northampton Police. And you can research the race, the time, the age, the gender of the person stopped, whether they were let go or not let go. And they're just doing it as like this database that's publicly accessible for sort of like this general public oversight in a way, which apparently is one of the most radical things that police departments do. I don't know much about this stuff, but it allows the individual citizen to go in and identify patterns if they want to be neurotic and do that, or be like, like my friend was.
So does it say names? Because you have to worry about people's privacy.
No,
I would
no.
be concerned with that.
No, they can't identify names unless, of course, there's a conviction and they were written a ticket
Right,
or whatever,
which
and then
is
that's the
also-
police log.
that is,
That's the blotter.
absolutely,
So that's
yeah.
public information anyway if they're convicted. But if they were let go, I'm assuming no, you're not going to let names go. But you can get all those demographic information.
Mm-hmm.
So you can say, okay, if say somebody's like, the Northampton Police are racist. Well, go through the past 3 months and see who they stopped and why. And do your own research, so they don't have to defend themselves. Like, well, it's all public
Right.
information. Go ahead and figure out for yourself. Are we racist?
Do you know how they funded that? Was it through a grant? Was
No idea.
Okay, because
But
that
I know
sounds
there was a lot of
expensive.
citizen pressure.
Not needed, but we'd have to worry about how we would fund that because that would create a database and stuff.
Maybe Massachusetts. I don't know. The other thing that struck me about Berkshire County is that the Berkshire Sheriff's Department do not make any traffic stops. That's not their job. And that was like, whoa. I moved there, and I moved from Columbia County. I lived here for 20 years. Columbia County, where you have the local PD, the Sheriff's Department, and the stateies. I'm a legal citizen, so I don't think I have to worry about ICE yet. Although, you're pretty Irish. I don't know. And it's just like the idea of the Sheriff's Department not making traffic stops was just like, whoa. So what are you doing? Like, why aren't you making? And then I realized that the Berkshire Sheriff's Department, their job is to do house calls. They're doing actual criminal investigations. They're doing stuff like domestic disputes, actual home invasions. Like they're not stopping people on the road. I just wanted to mention that. I don't even know if I have a question affiliated with that, but let me make one up. Do you think that traffic stops are a little bit overblown, like too much focused on as far as police work in our region?
I think that traffic stops in some instances can be revenue generating, and that's why they're done.
Mm-hmm.
The state police, we're part of that, and I'd like to see the Greene County Sheriff's Department get away from worrying about generating revenue and actually worry about helping citizens. Make stops because something's unsafe. Make stops to help somebody. Not worry about, I need to write a speeding ticket so that the town of whatever makes $120.
Well, I like to hear you say that. Like you're taking a little bit of a stand against the revenue generating impulse of a law enforcement agency.
When I did
Thank
my
you.
no problem. When I did my dissertation for my master's degree, I actually did it in red light cameras, and you'll be happy to know that I said red light cameras should not exist. Because
can you tell people what red light cameras are?
Well, so they're cameras that take pictures of you if you go through a red light, and statistics show that it causes more accidents, and they've had instances where municipalities are speeding up the yellow duration, and it was just too, for me, somebody that's concerned with civil liberties, I just thought there was too much use and abuse. Just too much out there for people to be able to abuse these municipalities to generate money.
Okay, we're getting in there.